Okay, for me that was a nice brisk pace. Got to test me on my climbing for my upcoming races. Now, if you're lollygagging, don't tell me anything.
It's interesting how brisk pace to one can be endurance to another. Hey cycling community, this is Steve Grusis, the Cycling Greek. That's my teammate Gary on my wheel. He called me the other night because he wanted to do a tune-up ride on the 4-lane the next morning, which is this morning. He's getting ready for a 155-mile, 15,000-foot climbing event this coming Saturday. And that event is going to be a tune-up for him for yet another event 2 weeks later. That's 200 miles, 21,000 feet of climbing. Gary rides long and fast. This was going to be a great opportunity to test myself with a faster climber. I got to the start about 20 minutes early because I knew there was going to be no lollygagging on this ride. And I needed to warm up because I'm an old guy subject to AFib. That clip that you saw at the beginning of the video, well, that was taken in the middle of the ride, after the 9-mile undulating climb and before the 8-mile consistent climb. Once we got on the 8-mile ascent called the 4-lane, we climbed for about 5 minutes before Gary started his workout. His workout was 20 minutes of alternating 5 minutes big gear, small gear work. What I was going to do was stay with him as long as I could. Gary's kind of a punchy rider. He likes to stand and take off. I'm not a punchy rider, so I stayed seated and then just got back up to him, and I was doing over 400 watts, and I know there's no way I can do 400 watts for 20 minutes. My VO2 max zone starts at about 290 watts. Nonetheless, I was going to hang with him for as long as I could. Since I began my mid-season endurance rebuild block, I haven't been doing any VO2 max work, so it wasn't a surprise when Gary kept going and I didn't. I think I lasted about 35 seconds with him. After about a minute of recovery, I went into steady state mode. My gear selection ranged from normal to slightly bigger than normal. When I got to the top, Gary was waiting for me. He climbed the 8 miles in about 49.5 minutes, and he was waiting just under 9 minutes for me. From our cars, we had ridden 22 miles and climbed over 4,300 feet, and none of it was slow. On the way back, there wasn't any lollygagging either. We even pushed it coming down this climb. It was at this point that my workout took a bit of a turn for me. I was starting to feel something a little different in my chest. Now, in a case like this, my heart rate drops when, of course, I'm doing a long descent because I'm not doing all that work. Often at such a drop, my heart would skip a beat, and it would do that every so often. I figure it was just adjusting to the drop. Well, this was doing it a little more often than what was happening before. And what I do is I check by putting my fingers to my carotid. So this is why I'm letting Gary go and I'm not trying to stay up with him. I want to concentrate on feeling my pulse rate. For about 10 seconds or so, it was missing beats on a steady basis, as if it was establishing a new pattern, kind of like an AFib pattern, but without the fast beats. So I know there wasn't any AFib going on, at least not as I characterize it. It would do that, like I said, for the 10 seconds, then it'd go back to normal, and then it would do it for a few more seconds again. Then it went back to normal and it stayed there. It's been a little over a year since my last AFib incident. If you've been watching my channel, you know I've been doing a huge amount of work, and I'm surprised that I had very few palpitations, what I call my heart talking to me. Usually that would occur the day after a big workout and I just get a couple palpitations. I always have to be vigilant and I'll always keep to my rules. Everything was fine on the way back in. Like I said before, no lollygagging. As I'm putting this video together after the ride, I'm getting a few palpitations here and there. I'm just taking things easy. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video and you got something out of it. As always, remember, comment, like, subscribe. The Cycling Greek.